So this was a request from some of my viewers to compare my 12-40 Pro lens versus some of my prime lenses. And I think it's a legitimate comparison. You know, because we can answer a couple of questions, right? Do you get the 12-40 Pro f2.8? Or do you get 2 or 3 prime lenses that'll cover a similar focal range? You know, are you going to get a better depth of field or shallower depth of field? Are you going to get sharper images? You know, do you need that extra low light capability of that 1 1/3 stop that the prime lenses give you? And then the other question we can answer is, you know, if you already have the 12-40 Pro lens, do you add a prime lens to your bag? Maybe the 25mm f1.8 or the 45mm f1.8. Is there really going to be much difference? So I'm going to run a few tests to try to help you, give you some data points to help you make that decision. And then you can decide if it makes sense to just get the 12-40 Pro or maybe add a 25mm or 45mm prime to your bag. So the first round of tests I'm going to do is just continuous autofocus with face detect in video mode. So I'm going to start with this 12-40 Pro at 25mm, and I'm wide open at f2.8. So let's just see how it does. And honestly, we already know this does a pretty good job, right? If I walk backwards, and it's where I've noticed Olympus cameras have a little trouble, and it's probably true for all cameras. I really don't know. I only shoot Olympus. But usually when I'm backing up, that's when I usually see the autofocus struggling a little bit versus, you know, walking forward. I think it does a better job. So let's walk out of frame. Come back in the frame. Move over. Come out of frame. And you guys are, again, seeing this before I am in the future. I mean, obviously I will have seen this as I'm editing, but I really don't know how this lens is performing. And I don't know if it's my eyes or the camera, but it looked like it lost focus earlier. Let's do a quick product test. Let's see, I have my TG-5. How's it doing? Did it pick that up? How about if I move over? Does it come back to me? And I'm looking at the monitor, just double checking for myself. And what's really nice about this camera is, or this lens, this has a very, very, very close focusing distance. I mean, I'm at 25mm. And look how close this can get. And we'll do some photography tests here very shortly. But yeah, it's pretty amazing. Now, when I come back out, does it pick me up? Yeah, okay, good job. All right, so let's go over to the 25mm f1.8 prime lens. All right, now I'm on the 25mm f1.8 prime lens. So what you want to look for, and I'm wide open at f1.8. So, you know, kind of compare the background in terms of depth of field, but we'll do some portrait shots just so you can see a static image. And, you know, if there's any differences in color. But I'll walk back here and see how it does. Is it keeping up or did it lose focus? Because I think I remember my last test, this 25mm was a little bit slow, but it was still doing a good job overall. How about if I walk out of frame and then come back in? And you know, I parked my Jeep back here intentionally so that the camera has something to grab onto easily. As you can see, it snaps right onto that Jeep pretty well. All right, let's try a product test. And the sun has come out. It does a good job. Let's see if there is close focusing distance. Ooh, not bad. Oh, still there. Good. How about now? Nope. Right about there. All right, let's come back to me. A little bit slower, I think. But that might be the camera, not the lens. Still, it is what it is, right? Alright, this is the 12 to 40 Pro lens at 40 millimeters f2.8. And you know, this is not really a focal range that you probably use with video, but nonetheless, we'll just do the same test. I'm going to try and stay in the frame. How's it doing? And obviously, I'm probably, you know, 3 or 4 meters away at this point. Alright, from here, this is probably about as close as anyone would get. I'm out of frame. And then let's do a product test. Are you seeing me? Are you seeing the product? Let's move in a little closer. Good. Let's see how close we can get. Again, this is the 12 to 40 Pro lens at 40 millimeters. Wow, amazing. Oh yeah, even better. How about now? We're still on. And then back to me. Hello? Uh-oh. It lost me. All right, now we're on the 45 millimeter f1.8 at f1.8. And, you know, it's a little bit tighter field of view by 5 millimeters. But how's the depth of field? Can you see any difference? How about if I walk back? Is it keeping up with focus? And again, I think this lens was the slowest of all the lenses I have in terms of autofocus, other than the Panasonic, which doesn't really count. But it seems to be doing a good job. Out of frame. I'm so far away I can't see if I'm getting in focus or not. Now there's a flock of birds came by. All right, let's try a product test. Ah, it picked up on me right away there. Is that in focus? Looks like it is. All right, let's see how close we can get. Ooh. I think this is about it. I don't think this lens will focus any closer. Oh, just a little bit. Yeah, right about there. That's about the closest I can get with this camera. And then how about back to me? Okay. All right, so let's take a look at these lenses wide open. And I have the 12 to 40 Pro here at 40 millimeters, f2.8, and the 45 millimeter Prime at f1.8. And you know, in terms of depth of field, yeah, you can definitely see this is blurrier over here, but not enough that I'd feel like I'd want to get this lens just for that. I would get it because of the high shutter speed I'm getting. Hence, I'd be able to use this at lower shutter speeds and lower ISO than the 12 to 40 Pro lens. So for low light, I would get the 45, but not for the depth of field. Let's compare the sharpness here, and we'll zoom in a little bit, not that much, and let's frame it roughly the same. And yeah, it's pretty comparable. I think the 12 to 40 Pro is actually a little sharper or has a little better contrast. I can see a little more detail in the eyelashes and in the hairline. But yeah, like the skin here versus over here, this is a little sharper. Let's compare at 25 millimeters. So again, I have the 12 to 40 Pro wide open and the 25 millimeter Prime wide open. And again, the depth of field is a little shallower, but not enough that I'd buy the lens just for that. Again, I would buy this lens because of the higher shutter speed or lower ISO I could use in low light, but not for the depth of field. Let's look at the sharpness now. And yeah, I would say that the 25 millimeter Prime wide open is definitely sharper. Just a tiny bit, not a whole lot. I'll just call that a draw. I don't see a lot of difference here. Let's move on to f2.8. Now the 25 millimeter at f2.8 I think is still equally sharp as the 12 to 40 Pro. I really don't see any difference. So the 12 to 40 Pro is doing an awesome job, and then obviously the depth of field has now are now equal. They're not, one is not any blurrier than the other. Alright, so I have the 12 to 40 Pro on the left again. And at f2.8, I would say that the 45 millimeter is now equally sharp to the 12 to 40 Pro lens. Yeah, I would say they're equal now at f2.8. And again, the depth of field looks exactly the same. Alright, let's just look at one last thing here, and that is the quality of the bokeh. And I would say they were equally smooth. I don't really see any differences here. And chromatic aberrations pretty well controlled. A little bit of a green shift again on the 25 millimeter, but not bad. And then let's compare at 45 millimeters with the same aperture. And let me see if I can line these up a little better. Pretty close. I'd give the 45 millimeter Prime its slight edge and smoothness, but that's because we're zoomed in 2 to 1. But overall, really excellent performance by the 12 to 40 Pro on all counts. And the only advantage I see with the Prime lenses is being able to shoot, 1 1/3 stop faster because of the wider aperture. Hopefully you found these tests helpful in your decision-making process between maybe getting the 12 to 40 Pro lens and or some of the Primes. And a couple of things I didn't talk about yet are the build quality of this Pro lens is outstanding. I mean, the Prime lenses just don't hold a candle to the build quality of this lens. This is a nice all-metal build construction. This also has a manual focus clutch, so you can do some fine-tuning in your focusing for macro work or video work. And it also has a function button here, so it'll help you in your workflow in the field, so you can program that button for something very specific. So there's a lot of benefits to this Pro lens above and beyond just the focal range between 12 and 40 all by itself. Now, you know, the prime lenses had the added benefit of the extra stop and a third of light. So you get a little shallower depth of field, you're able to shoot in lower light, you know, at probably half the ISO you would be able to with this lens. And that may be worth it to add a prime lens to your bag. But again, that's why I did these tests, just to kind of give you that comparison, to see if these lenses, the prime lenses, are any sharper or give you really a significant difference in the depth of field. But as always, if you'd like to see me do any other testing, just let me know. I'll be happy to give it a shot if I have the gear. And you know, if you'd like to see more videos like this, just hit the subscribe button, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.